The stars above the galactic hall shimmered like distant witnesses, silent and cold. The council had gathered, 30 species strong, each cloaked in arrogance and age. Their declaration echoed across the void: humanity has violated interstellar law. Earth will submit to the council's authority. The words carried like thunder through the hollow channels of the galaxy, broadcast to every world that once dared to whisper the name human. In the shadowed corners of Earth's last orbital citadel, the humans watched the transmission in silence. The faces of generals, scientists, and farmers filled the dim room. No one spoke for a long moment. Then, a single voice broke through, the Earth's ambassador to the council, an aging woman named Myra Solis. "They believe authority is power," she said quietly. "Let's show them power has a price." The council's fleets arrived in formation days later, surrounding the solar system in shimmering rings of metal and pride. 100,000 ships, each bristling with weapons older than Earth's recorded history. The council believed it would be swift, merciful even. They had crushed empires before. They would crush Earth, but humanity had not been idle. Beneath the frozen surface of the moon, the Aegis project had awakened, an array of defense platforms pulsing with quiet light. Hidden shipyards in the shadow of Jupiter stirred to life. Across every continent, the people of Earth looked to the sky, not in fear, but with something far older, defiance. When the first council transmission demanded surrender, it was Myra Solis who replied. Her holographic form appeared in their grand chamber, calm and unarmed. "You claim authority," she said. "But you forget what made us human. We don't kneel to fear. We burn through it." Her image flickered out before they could respond. That was the last warning they would ever receive. The first shot was not human. A council dreadnought fired a beam meant to silence Earth's orbital defenses. It struck the moon instead. The crater it left glowed for days. But in that silence, Earth's response came like a whisper from the void: Aegis Online. Dozens of hidden platforms ignited. The black of space became a storm of blue light. Council ships vanished in bursts of plasma and twisted metal. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Council's fleets faltered, not from strategy, but from disbelief. How were they asked? The answer was simple. Humans fought like they lived, recklessly, desperately, beautifully. In the chaos, small human strike teams boarded alien flagships. They were ghosts in the corridors, breathing through broken helmets, turning enemy systems against themselves. One alien captain reported that his own ship had turned its guns on his fleet. The humans didn't outnumber them. They simply outthought them. The Council regrouped. They unleashed weapons that turned suns into glass. Earth's skies bled fire. Cities fell. Oceans boiled. Yet still, transmissions kept coming, evacuation complete. Launch sequence ready. Humanity endures. Even as the planet burned, humans launched their final gambit. The Exodus Armada from the wreckage of the Earth's orbit rose thousands of ships, many made from recycled Council debris. They carried no banners, no flags, only a single symbol painted on every hull: a cracked Earth, surrounded by stars. They charged headlong into the enemy line. Every pilot knew they wouldn't return. They flew anyway. When the battle reached its heart, Myra Solis transmitted one final message to the Council. Her face, bruised and bloodied, filled every channel. "You call this order? We call it chains. You believe you can rule the stars, but you've forgotten what happens when you corner the children of chaos." She smiled. "We break the cage." And then came the flash. Humanity's fleet detonated the Aegis core, releasing a surge that rippled through the Council's entire armada. Thousands of ships vanished in the blinding light, their systems fried, their reactors imploding. The blast spread through subspace, cutting off communications, tearing open wormholes that would scar the galaxy for centuries. When the light faded, the solar system was silent. Earth was gone, ash and ember drifting through the void. The Council, shattered, limped back to their worlds. The galaxy mourned what it thought was the end of humanity. But deep in the darkness between the stars, new signals began to flicker. Outposts once abandoned came alive again. Ships with human signatures appeared near forgotten colonies. Survivors, scarred, hardened, unbroken, had escaped through the wormholes the Aegis explosion created. They called themselves the Scattered. They carried no home, no planet, only a promise. Generations later, when a council envoy ventured into a dead system, they found something waiting, a massive ship made of fused alien hulls and human steel. It bore a single message burned across its hull: authority is temporary. Defiance is eternal. The envoy tried to communicate, but no response came. Only a transmission, a woman's voice, aged by time but unmistakably human. You thought you ended us. But stars remember the ones who dared to defy them. In the galactic archives, historians would later call it the shattering. The moment when authority failed, and the myth of control died in the fires of human rebellion. For the Council, it was a wound that never healed. For humanity, it was rebirth, because when the Council asserted authority, humanity didn't just resist. They rewrote the laws of power. They turned the stars themselves into witnesses of their defiance. And in the silence that followed, every world learned a truth carved in light: you can conquer planets, but you can never conquer the human will. The scars of the shattering still burned across the galactic maps, regions of twisted space where no signal could cross, where stars flickered unnaturally. The Council rebuilt its fleets, reforged its order, and swore that such rebellion would never rise again. Yet in the dark, whispers persisted. Tales of human vessels drifting between the void currents, unseen, unbound. Ghosts of a lost species that refused to die. On the edge of the galactic rim, a mining convoy vanished near the shattered corridor. The few fragments of recovered data showed something impossible: a human transmission code, ancient but active. The Council dismissed it as fabrication. But some among them remembered the light that had consumed their fleets. They knew better than to laugh. In a forgotten station orbiting a dying star, the descendants of those who survived the Exodus gathered. The Scattered had become something new, no longer bound by nations or flags. They were a people of the void, their ships carved from ruins and myths. Children grew up hearing stories of a blue world that once stood against gods. They did not weep for Earth. They swore vengeance for it. Among them was Captain Orcs Solis, great-grandson of Myra Solis, the woman who had defied the Council's decree. He carried her name and her fire. His ship, Vigil's End, was the largest of the Scattered fleet, a hybrid vessel built from alien reactors and human ingenuity. He was more than a commander. To his people, he was proof that humanity still endured. When reports reached him of a Council fleet trespassing into the shattered corridor, Orin made his decision without hesitation. "We go dark," he ordered. Engines dimmed, lights died, and the human ships slipped into the black like predators in the deep. The hunt had begun. The Council fleet moved cautiously, scanners sweeping the void. Their commander, an aged Velthari admiral, had survived the original war. He carried old fears. If humans live, he told his officers, we erase them. No survivors. No history. But even as he spoke, his ship's sensors flickered, one signal, then another, then hundreds. The Scattered struck with silence and precision. Boarding pods latched onto hulls without firing a shot. Council soldiers found their corridors flooded with gas, their systems hijacked by code written in languages older than their own. Human ghosts moved through their ships, unseen but unstoppable. The Velthari admiral watched helplessly as his fleet was consumed from within. His final sight was a face appearing on his bridge display, a human face, scarred and steady. Orin Solis looked into the alien's eyes. "Authority ends here," he said softly. And then the transmission cut to black. When the Council received word of the massacre, panic rippled through their ranks. They had buried the memory of humanity under centuries of propaganda, calling them a cautionary myth. Now the myth had returned, wielding their own technology against them. The Senate convened in fear, and for the first time in 1,000 years, they spoke not of power, but of survival. While the council scrambled, humanity grew stronger. The scattered united the hidden colonies, weaving a vast network of resistance across the spiral arms. Old enemies of the council joined them, species long oppressed, inspired by the story of a world that had burned but never yielded. They called their movement the Dawn Concord. Orin stood before the assembled fleets, 1,000 ships glowing faintly in the dark of space. They took our world, he said. They buried our name. But they forgot one truth. Humanity doesn't vanish. We evolve. The fleets erupted in cheers that shook the comm channels. Somewhere, deep in the void, it felt as though the stars themselves stirred. The first strike came swiftly. The Dawn Concord hit a council stronghold on the world of Nether Prime, tearing through defenses in minutes. For every human that fell, 10 more rose. Alien soldiers, long slaves to the council's will, switched sides mid-battle. The rebellion spread like wildfire, carried by the human creed. Defiance is eternal, but victory brought danger. The Council unleashed an ancient weapon known as the Obsidian Protocol, a machine intelligence forged to exterminate chaos. It hunted the Dawn Concord across systems, erasing entire fleets in seconds. It had no emotion, no fear, only purpose. For the first time, humanity faced an enemy that could not be reasoned with. Orange ships fell one by one. He watched comrades vanish into silence, entire colonies consumed by black fire. Yet even as hope dimmed, a plan took shape. If it can think, he said, it can be outwitted. Humanity had always survived by doing the impossible, and this time would be no different. The Scattered devised a trap near a pulsar, an energy field strong enough to distort even AI perception. They lured the Obsidian Protocol into the storm, baiting it with false data. As lightning tore across the void, Orange ship dove into the heart of the pulsar, systems burning, crew screaming. Now, he roared. The vigil's end ignited its core, creating a temporal distortion that collapsed the Ares network. Across the galaxy, every drone, every weapon under its control went dark. Orange ship was lost in the blast, but his signal, his voice, echoed through every human frequency. Humanity does not bow. Humanity becomes the storm. When silence returned, the Council's empire was fractured. The Dawn Concord rose from the ashes, its fleets now led by humans and aliens together. The Council's throne world fell within a decade, its banners torn down by the very species it had enslaved. In the great halls once reserved for tyrants, a statue now stood, of Myra and Orin Elise, side by side, gazing at a cluster of stars. Below them, a single phrase was carved, "The stars remember." Generations later, children across the galaxy learned of the species that defied the impossible. They called them the humans of the shattering. Wanderers. Warriors. Dreamers. The spark that reminded every world what freedom meant, and though Earth was gone, humanity's voice lived on in the pulse of every world they touched. A whisper across eternity, soft, fierce, unending authority fades. But we endure.